Have you ever looked back at your life and realized that your greatest pain did not come from enemies but from the things you willingly gave away? Most people spend years believing that being good means giving endlessly. They give their time, their energy, their attention, their forgiveness, and sometimes even their identity. They believe that if they sacrifice enough they will finally be loved, respected, or appreciated. But the Stoics understood a brutal truth that modern society often ignores. There are certain things that should never be handed over to anyone, no matter how much they ask, no matter how guilty they make you feel, and no matter how much you care about them. Because once these things leave your possession you begin losing yourself piece by piece. Marcus Aurelius spent his life surrounded by people who wanted something from him. As Emperor of Rome, everyone demanded his attention, his approval, his emotions, and his decisions. Yet despite carrying the burden of an entire empire, he repeatedly reminded himself of one principle. Protect the fortress of your mind at all costs. He understood that a person who cannot protect what is sacred within eventually becomes controlled by those around them. And perhaps this is exactly what has happened to so many people today. They wake up exhausted not because life is hard but because they have given away too much of themselves. The painful reality is that people often do not realize what they have lost until they feel empty inside. By then years may have passed, relationships may have changed, and opportunities may have disappeared forever. But Stoicism offers another path. It teaches that true strength is not found in giving everything away. True strength lies in knowing exactly what must remain yours forever. The first thing you should never give people, even if they desperately ask for it, is control over your emotions. This lesson alone has the power to completely transform your life. Think about how many times someone's words ruined your entire day. A criticism from a coworker. An insulting comment from a stranger. Rejection from someone you cared deeply about. Suddenly your mood changes, your thoughts become consumed by what happened, and your peace disappears. In that moment something extremely important has occurred. You have handed another person control over your emotional world. Marcus Aurelius warned himself constantly about this danger. He wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Most people spend their lives trying to control others while completely neglecting the only thing they truly possess, which is themselves. The Stoics believe that emotional independence is one of the highest forms of freedom. If another person's behavior determines whether you are happy, calm, or confident, then your well-being no longer belongs to you. It belongs to them. Imagine living your entire life as a puppet whose strings are controlled by the opinions, moods, and actions of other people. Sadly, this is exactly how millions live every single day. They feel valuable only when praised. They feel worthless when criticized. They feel complete only when accepted by others. They surrender their emotional state so easily that anyone can disturb their peace with a single sentence. Epictetus, who spent part of his life as a slave, understood this better than almost anyone. He taught that no person can truly harm you unless you allow them access to your mind. The event itself is rarely the source of suffering. Rather, it is your interpretation of that event. Two people may experience the exact same insult, yet one becomes furious while the other remains completely calm. The difference lies not in the insult but in the meaning each person assigns to it. This realization changes everything. When someone insults you, their words reveal something about their character, not your worth. When someone rejects you, it does not diminish your value. When someone ignores you, it does not make you insignificant. Once you stop allowing external events to dictate your internal state, you become extraordinarily powerful because your peace can no longer be taken hostage by others. Consider the modern world where emotional control has become a form of social currency. Social media platforms thrive because they constantly manipulate human emotions. One negative comment among hundreds of positive messages can dominate someone's thoughts for days. A stranger hidden behind a screen suddenly possesses the power to destroy confidence and create self-doubt. Why does this happen? Because people unknowingly surrender authority over their emotions to individuals who know nothing about them. The Stoics would have found this tragic. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the opinions of others are fleeting, temporary, and ultimately outside his control. He understood that seeking universal approval is not only impossible but deeply exhausting. The moment you decide that your self-worth depends upon external validation, you place your happiness in unstable hands. People change. Opinions shift. Praise disappears. If your confidence is built upon these things, it will collapse whenever circumstances change. True confidence emerges when you learn to evaluate yourself according to your own principles rather than public opinion. This does not mean becoming cold, indifferent, or emotionally numb. Stoicism was never about suppressing emotion. It was about mastering it. Feel your emotions but do not become enslaved by them. Experience disappointment without losing hope. Experience criticism without losing confidence. Experience rejection without losing dignity. This is the foundation of mental resilience. And yet, while many people gradually learn to protect their emotions, they continue giving away something equally precious without realizing it. Something that once lost can never be recovered. That thing is time. And understanding how to protect it may be one of the most important lessons you will ever learn. Every human being, regardless of wealth, status, intelligence, or background, receives the same 24 hours each day. Yet some individuals build extraordinary lives while others reach old age filled with regret, wondering where all the years went. Seneca devoted an entire work to this subject because he believed humanity suffers from a strange contradiction. People fiercely protect their possessions yet carelessly waste the one resource they can never replace. He observed that individuals become angry when someone steals their money but willingly allow others to steal their time every single day. Think about how often you say yes when you want to say no. You attend events that drain you. You engage in conversations that add no value. You become involved in unnecessary drama. You interrupt your goals to satisfy expectations that do not truly matter. Slowly your days become filled with obligations that were never genuinely yours. Many people spend decades living according to other people's priorities. They postpone dreams, delay ambitions, neglect health, and abandon passions simply because they fear disappointing others. But Stoicism teaches that time is life itself. When someone wastes your time, they are not merely taking minutes from you. They are taking a portion of your existence that can never be restored. The tragedy is that most people recognize this only when life begins running out. They suddenly realize they spent years chasing approval instead of purpose. Years pleasing others while neglecting themselves. Years surviving rather than truly living. Protecting your time, therefore, is not selfish. It is essential. Because every unnecessary commitment steals energy from something more meaningful. Every meaningless distraction pulls you further from the person you could become. And what happens when people repeatedly sacrifice their time to gain acceptance from others leads directly to the next brutal Stoic lesson, one that has quietly destroyed countless lives throughout history. What usually begins as a simple desire to be liked often turns into something far more dangerous. A person starts making small compromises to keep peace in a relationship. They remain silent after a disrespectful comment. They ignore behavior that hurts them. They accept treatment they know is wrong because confronting it feels uncomfortable. At first these compromises seem harmless. After all, everyone sacrifices a little in relationships. But over time those small compromises accumulate until something shocking happens. The person no longer recognizes themselves. Their values have changed. Their boundaries have disappeared. Their confidence has faded. They have given away something that should never be surrendered under any circumstances, their self-respect. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that no external reward is worth corrupting one's character. To the Stoics, your character was your greatest possession. Wealth could disappear. Reputation could be destroyed. Loved ones could leave. Empires could fall. But a person who maintained integrity still possessed something priceless. Modern society often encourages the opposite. People are taught to chase approval at almost any cost. They stay in toxic friendships because they fear loneliness. They remain in unhealthy relationships because they fear abandonment. They tolerate disrespect because they believe losing someone would be worse than losing themselves. Yet Stoicism teaches a difficult truth. The moment you abandon your principles to keep another person, you begin creating a life built upon self-betrayal. And self-betrayal always carries a price. Think about someone who constantly apologizes for things that are not their fault simply to avoid conflict. Initially it seems noble. They appear kind, accommodating and easygoing. But beneath the surface resentment slowly grows. Every unspoken truth, every ignored boundary, and every tolerated insult chips away at their dignity. Eventually they become exhausted, confused, and deeply unhappy. They cannot understand why they feel empty, because from the outside they appear to have maintained all their relationships. The answer is simple. They preserved relationships while sacrificing themselves. Epictetus warned that if you seek to please everyone, you will eventually become a stranger to yourself. This is one of the most painful experiences a human being can endure. Losing another person hurts. Losing your own identity hurts far more. The Stoics understood that self-respect requires courage because maintaining it often means disappointing people. It means saying no when others expect yes. It means walking away when others demand your submission. It means refusing opportunities that violate your values even when they promise rewards. This courage is rare because humans naturally crave belonging. Since ancient times, acceptance by the group meant survival. Rejection meant danger. Even today this instinct remains deeply embedded within us. People fear disapproval because somewhere inside they still associate exclusion with pain. But Stoicism invites you to rise above this instinct. It asks a simple question. What is the value of belonging if the price is losing yourself? The answer becomes obvious when you observe individuals who consistently protect their dignity. They may not please everyone. They may not keep every relationship. But they possess something many people spend their entire lives searching for. Inner peace. Inner peace is perhaps the most undervalued treasure in modern life. People sacrifice it for status, money, attention, relationships, and temporary pleasures without realizing what they have lost. They allow constant negativity to invade their minds. They absorb every criticism, every conflict, and every piece of drama until anxiety becomes their normal state. Marcus Aurelius described the mind as an inner citadel, a fortress that should remain protected from unnecessary disturbance. Yet most people leave the gates wide open. They invite chaos into their lives through unhealthy relationships, endless comparison, toxic environments, and emotional overexposure. Then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed. Consider how many people cannot spend even 10 minutes alone with their thoughts without reaching for a phone. Silence has become uncomfortable because it forces individuals to confront what exists within. Modern culture encourages endless stimulation because distraction is profitable. But the Stoics believed that peace emerges only when a person learns to govern their own mind. This requires protecting your inner world from influences that constantly disrupt it. Not every argument deserves your participation. Not every criticism deserves your attention. Not every problem deserves your emotional investment. One of the most powerful phrases in Stoicism is remarkably simple: "This is not my concern." Imagine how different your life would feel if you applied this principle consistently. How much stress would disappear if you stopped carrying burdens that never belonged to you? How much energy would return if you stopped involving yourself in every conflict surrounding you? The strongest individuals are not those who fight every battle. They are those wise enough to choose which battles deserve their energy. There is an ancient story about a philosopher who was publicly insulted by a man seeking to provoke him. The crowd expected anger, retaliation, or humiliation. Instead, the philosopher smiled calmly and walked away. When asked why he had not responded, he simply said that accepting the insult would have required him to surrender his peace, and he considered his peace far too valuable. This lesson remains profoundly relevant today. Every day people attempt to hand you their anger, insecurity, jealousy, frustration, and negativity. Some do it intentionally while others do it unconsciously. The question is whether you choose to accept these emotional burdens. Imagine someone offering you a bag filled with garbage. You would naturally refuse because carrying someone else's waste makes no sense. Yet emotionally people do this constantly. They accept resentment that does not belong to them. They internalize criticism rooted in another person's insecurity. They absorb negativity until their own spirit becomes heavy. Stoicism teaches that you are not obligated to carry what others refuse to manage within themselves. Protecting your peace therefore is not selfish. It is wisdom. Because once peace disappears, clear thinking disappears with it. Without peace, discipline weakens, relationships suffer, and purpose becomes clouded. However, there is still one final thing that people surrender far too easily. It is perhaps the most dangerous gift of all, because unlike time, emotions, or peace, many people give it away without ever realizing they possessed it in the first place. And once it is lost, rebuilding it can take years. That final lesson may be the one that changes your life forever. The final thing you should never give people, even if they beg for it, manipulate you for it, or guilt you into surrendering it, is your sense of identity. This may sound abstract at first, but it is one of the greatest dangers any human being can face. Your identity is the story you tell yourself about who you are. It is your values, your principles, your beliefs, your purpose, and the standards by which you live. It is the invisible foundation beneath every decision you make. And yet countless people slowly hand this foundation over to others without even noticing. They allow society to tell them what success should look like. They allow relationships to determine their worth. They allow public opinion to shape their beliefs. They become so focused on fitting in that they eventually forget who they truly are. Marcus Aurelius faced immense pressure throughout his life. As emperor, he was surrounded by politicians, soldiers, advisors, and citizens, all demanding that he become what they wanted him to be. But despite this constant pressure, he continually returned to one essential practice. He reminded himself every morning of the kind of man he intended to be. He understood that if he allowed others to define him, he would spend his entire life performing for an audience rather than living authentically. The same danger exists today, perhaps more than ever before. Modern culture constantly pressures individuals to seek external validation. People compare themselves endlessly on social media, measuring their lives against carefully edited images and unrealistic expectations. They begin changing themselves to gain approval. They alter opinions, hide authentic emotions, suppress individuality, and abandon personal dreams simply to avoid criticism or rejection. Gradually they become disconnected from themselves. Outwardly they may appear successful, accepted, and admired. Inwardly they feel empty because the life they are living no longer belongs to them. There is a tragic irony in human behavior. Many people fear being alone so intensely that they are willing to become someone else in order to keep others close. They sacrifice authenticity for acceptance. But acceptance gained through self-abandonment is fragile because it depends upon maintaining a false version of yourself. Eventually this becomes exhausting. You constantly monitor your behavior, seeking approval and avoiding disapproval. You lose spontaneity. You lose freedom. Most importantly, you lose the deep sense of peace that comes from living in alignment with your own values. Epictetus warned that no person is free who is not master of themselves. True freedom begins when you stop asking the world for permission to be who you are. This does not mean rejecting feedback, refusing growth, or isolating yourself from others. Stoicism encourages continual self-improvement. But improvement is very different from self-betrayal. Growth strengthens your authentic self while betrayal destroys it. A Stoic asks not what will make others approve of me, but what kind of person do I wish to become. This shift changes everything. Suddenly decisions become clearer. Relationships become healthier. Boundaries become stronger. You stop chasing admiration and start pursuing virtue. You stop asking whether people will stay and begin asking whether their presence aligns with your values. You stop fearing rejection because you realize that losing people who require you to abandon yourself is not a loss at all. It is liberation. Imagine reaching the end of your life and realizing that every major decision was made to satisfy someone else. Imagine discovering that the dreams you pursued were not truly yours. The career, the lifestyle, the relationships, and even the identity you carried were shaped primarily by external expectations. This is one of the greatest regrets human beings experience. Seneca wrote that many people are busy throughout their lives yet never truly live. They exist according to the demands of others while neglecting the deepest desires of their own soul. Stoicism offers an alternative path. It invites you to reclaim ownership of your life. Protect your emotions because they determine your inner freedom. Protect your time because it is the substance from which life itself is made. Protect your self-respect because without it every relationship becomes unstable. Protect your peace because clarity cannot exist in chaos. And above all, protect your identity because once you know who you are, the world loses much of its power to control you. The strongest people are not those who dominate others. They are those who remain faithful to themselves regardless of circumstances. They cannot be manipulated through guilt, controlled through fear, or broken by rejection because their worth comes from within. This is the essence of Stoic strength. It is quiet yet unshakable. Invisible yet powerful. It allows a person to walk through criticism, failure, betrayal, loneliness, and uncertainty without losing themselves. As you move forward from this moment, ask yourself a difficult question. What have you been giving away that should have remained yours? Perhaps you have surrendered your peace to people who thrive on drama. Perhaps you have sacrificed years trying to earn approval from individuals who will never be satisfied. Perhaps you have tolerated disrespect because you feared being alone. Or perhaps you have become so focused on pleasing others that you no longer remember who you truly are. Whatever the answer may be, understand this. It is never too late to reclaim what belongs to you. The Stoics believe that every new day offers an opportunity to begin again. You can establish boundaries. You can protect your time. You can choose peace over conflict. You can rebuild self-respect. Most importantly, you can return to yourself. Because the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation upon which every other relationship is built. Lose that relationship and nothing external will ever feel sufficient. Strengthen it and very little outside of you can cause lasting harm. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on which of these 5 things you have been giving away too freely. Share your answer in the comments because your insight may help someone else who is silently struggling. And if you want to develop the kind of mindset that remains calm, disciplined, and unbreakable regardless of what life throws at you, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join this growing community of modern Stoics. Remember, you do not need to control the world. You only need to master yourself. And once you do, very few things in life can ever truly defeat you.